Elvis Presley, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, Little Richard, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Frankie Avalon, and Chubby Checker. These were the musicians that changed the way we looked at music. And this man, the legendary DJ Jerry Blavat, knew and played them all. We'll take a look back at 5 decades of music history right now on It's Your Call. Picture it, it's 1950 and a young kid with a passion for music gets his first break into show business. Doo-wop is the musical flavor of the time, but soon comes rock and roll, funk and soul, R&B, and before you know it, that young man is a very young 70 years old and a legend in his own right. Hi there everyone, it's great to have you with us. Now, if you're a music lover or a history buff or a Jerry Blavat fan, then you're going to absolutely love this show because my special guest is the one and only, the legendary Jerry Blavat, the so-called Geator with the heater, and he's joining us on the occasion of his 50th anniversary in radio and in advance of the publication of his forthcoming book, Keep On Rockin' Cause You Only Rock Once. Jerry, I am tickled pink to have you here with us.
Well, I got to tell you, I am a very big fan of yours. I think that you are terrific. I mean, for me to be here, it's a delight. The last time you and I were together is when we did a tribute to Elvis, if you remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you knew of Elvis and all of the great musical legends that I mentioned at the top of the show. And here, when you take a look back at 50 years, can you comprehend it? Can you believe it?
You know, it's amazing when you love what you do, Lynn. It's like you doing so many shows. You love what you do. Time goes by so fast. I mean, I began as a kid dancing on bandstand, 13 years of age, and met all the super rock and roll stars. I mean, when America was young and this music was young, and I became fortunate to go on the road with Danny and the Juniors, to be Don Rickles' valet, to be Sammy Davis's buddy, and then go on radio in 1960, and it's just been a wink of the eye. A
wink of the eye, but when you look back on it, you were there when music history was being made, and you witnessed the changes that our culture and our society experienced and saw how music was reflected during those times.
Well, you got to understand, every great country has their own music. The Italians have their music. Spain has their music. The French have their music. Rock and roll was our music. This is the music of America at that time growing up. Our parents were into Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Rosemary Clooney, the Four Aces, but rock and roll, which was new, represented the sound of the streets. It had a rhythm. And when you were a young guy going out on the date, the lyric you related to. And when I went on the radio and when I played You Cheated, You Lied, You Said That You Loved Me, because at the dance you met one girl, she said, I love you, to take her to the hot shop, and the next week she's with another guy. And then you said, in the still of the night, I think about you. So that music we related to. And music today is not the same because the storyline is not the same. Our world is not the same as it was when I first began, you see.
How is the music line different?
Well, back then, you had young people recording this music with a lyric that young people apply to today. It's completely different. I don't think rap, and even though it's so big, and hip hop, which is so big, will have the longevity that our music had, because our music had a storyline to it. Our music at that time made sense with a rhythm. Music today is done.
But maybe it makes sense to the kids that are listening to it today.
It.
Because I know that parents, when you were on the radio and when you were on bandstand and coming up, parents at the time were saying, oh, this noise.
Turn that guy down.
It's noise.
Turn that guy down, right.
Exactly. So how is it any different than us looking at our kids or our grandkids and saying,
really no different.
Turn that yak down?
It's no different, but I don't think that this music will have the longevity of the music with Dion and the Belmonts, with Frankie Avalon, with Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Look at the resurgence of Jersey Boys.
Really?
I mean, that is a story about young America at that time. Kids from a neighborhood singing together, getting opportunity to record, and look, that's what it was. Do you know that the Four Seasons, when the English invasion came to this country, there were only two types of music that made it: Motown and the Four Seasons and the Beach Boys. Every other record artist, but the charts were dominated by the English invasion.
Let's talk about the different decades and the different periods of music,
Right.
and what took off. I said doo-wop was kind of the flavor of the month or the flavor of the decade when you really first got started in the business.
Well, it's interesting because they put a label on music. Doo-wop really is street corner harmony, where kids would sing on a corner, 5 or 6 kids from a neighborhood, and would get lucky enough, like Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, or the Cleftones, or the Jive 5, would get lucky enough to be heard. And you gotta understand, in those days, especially for Dick Clark is the man really responsible for making rock and roll. Because when he went on a national TV show and played Little Richard, Fats Domino, it was heard all around the country.
Right.
So all of these wonderful artists had an opportunity to be seen and to be heard. What then happened is when I got on the radio, which was by accident. I mean, I was doing a live talk show from a place called the Venus Lounge, and I owned the time. Snowstorm closes the club. I can't do the show from the club. I take my rock and roll records up to a little cockamamie station called WCAM, and I start to play all the music that I played when I was dancing on Bandstand. Kids are surfing the dial. They hear this crazy music for the first time. It's not old, it's new to them. And it began. The whole oldie craze began back then. And it was phenomenal. It really was. And other disc jockeys said, this is an upstart.
Right.
I mean,
who's this
what's he
kid?
know about radio?
Right.
So I became the rebel jock that rocked the big TikTok. You see.
Okay, we're going to find out more about those early years and hear from some of your famous friends as well. I know that you all have questions for Jerry, and we have some for you as well. So here are a couple that I'd like you to respond to. What is your favorite musical act of the last 50 years? And how do you compare the so-called oldies music to today's stuff? And if you could ask Jerry any question about any musical group or anything that he's done, what would it be? If you want to email those questions and comments to me, do it right now at lynn@lynndoyle.net. And of course, you can always find our questions on Facebook, where you can friend me as well. We're at Lynn, It's Your Call Doyle, or you can join my It's Your Call group. We're going to have a quick break here, and when we come back, we're going to find out more from the Geator with the Heater, including where that name came from. Do you know? We're going to find out on the other side.